The next speaker is Special Advisor to Europol, Project Leader with the International Cybersecurity Prevention Alliance, Vice Chair of the Center for Strategic Cyberspace and Security Science, and Vice President of Security Research and Trend Micro. Today, he is a Webit speaker. Please welcome Mr. Rick Ferguson.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I think there's me and one more speaker between you and food and drink, as far as I understand it. So I'll try and inject some life into it. I understand, as far as I know, we have to give some kind of interesting statistic or information about ourselves. So I'm in the top 45 people with the best hair under the age of 45. Thank you. I say under the age of 45, that's not for much longer, to be honest. Anyway, we're not here to talk about my hair, unfortunately. I want to talk to you about the risks and the challenges involved with migrating your business to the cloud, or perhaps even starting your business in the cloud. Very relevant, I think, in the format that we have here today and yesterday. And I wanted to try and highlight, in the limited time that I have available, 5 key things that I think you, your enterprises, or the people that you do business with, your third parties, need to address when it comes to cloud. So let's dive straight into it. The first one is a question of longevity. When selecting a cloud provider, a cloud partner, obviously it's important to assure yourself and to assure your business partners that infrastructure that you're choosing is one which is going to survive long term. So one that either already has a track record that you can go back and check up on. How long have they been in business? What's their uptime historically? How reliable have they been? And also importantly, if your choice of partner is not someone who has a verifiable longevity, maybe check out who's backing those people. How much confidence do investors have in them? How much life do they have ahead of them? Longevity, though, it's only one side of the coin. I think the other aspect of longevity that gets often neglected or not thought about is a question of your data. So once you've started to migrate your data into a cloud provider, what's the longevity of your data in that ecosystem, in that infrastructure? Because one of the things that we consistently fail to consider when thinking about security is disposal of data. So how can you verify and vet that the information that was in your third-party cloud environment has been deleted when you asked for it to be deleted? Is it still resident in their storage arrays? Is it still resident on hard drives? Has it simply been de-indexed? Or can you actually verify the longevity of your data and the safe destruction and removal of your data from those ecosystems? So there's 2 sides to that particular coin. Another very important thing to consider is migration. When starting your journey to the cloud and continuing that journey, and it is a journey, and it's not a journey where we all have the same destination. It's certainly a journey that we probably all start from a similar point, but we're not all aiming for the same destination. We'll all have different stopping points along the way. Planning your migration to the cloud, I guess, is like planning a very complex, around-the-world ticket with a bunch of different airlines and shipping companies and train providers and car rental companies. You've got to think about, where am I now? Where is it I'm trying to get to? And who are the best partners to help me get there along the way? And when it comes to cloud, I think some of the key concerns when it comes to migration are proprietary formats. How easy will it be for me to migrate my data into the cloud environment? How easy will it be for me to get that data back out again if I decide to switch providers 3 or 4 years down the line? How open is that cloud environment? Is it proprietary APIs? How well do my existing systems integrate with this cloud environment? And very importantly, because it's, I think, unusual that anyone would go with a single cloud provider for every aspect of their business. There are so many different flavors of cloud and different as-a-service options. How well do those providers play with each other? And not only how well do they integrate functionally, but how well do they integrate from a security perspective? So how secure is the transfer of data between provider A and provider B, for example? If I assure myself of its security in this provider's cloud, but at some point the data must be exchanged to be processed or stored at another location, how safe is that process of transfer? Speaking of safety of data, confidentiality. Obviously, confidentiality has been in the news a lot over the past few years. And you may have heard that certain government departments in certain geographies are developing advanced capabilities when it comes to interception of data or legal warrants for access to data. This, I believe, was one of the very early prototypes developed at the NSA for interception of consumer data. Very effective, but really not fast enough for the cloud world. So how can you assure yourself that your data is safe not only from government agencies, let's say, but also from other people sharing that same infrastructure? In a public cloud environment, certainly in an infrastructure as a service environment and in many software as a service environments, your data is co-located, co-hosted, and there are all those problems of access. So how can you effectively audit and get answers to your security questions from those cloud providers? Speaking of the legislative environment, that's also a key concern. When it comes to migrating systems, migrating data, choosing partners, whereabouts are those partners? What's the legislative and regulatory environment within the geography where that partner is located? What assurances can you get as a customer that your data will be treated in accordance with your own local industry regulation or local legal obligations, and that you won't find yourself falling foul of your own government because your data has been abused in another geography or in a third-party environment? I love the quote on this graphic. I'd love to give credit for it, but like so many things online, I have no idea who put these words with this image. But yeah, in America, you don't browse the internet browses you. And I think that's becoming more and more true of not only the US, they're kind of the whipping boy for all this kind of stuff, unfortunately, but I think globally. You look at some of the legislation that they're talking about in the United Kingdom right now for manufacturers to build in backdoors to compromise crypto systems, very similar to what they're looking at in the US. Look at some of the legislation in France, for example, offering privileged access for law enforcement to online communications. One thing I would like to reinforce, just because I'm standing on a stage and I have the opportunity to do so, is that there is no such thing as a safe backdoor. No such thing as a safe backdoor. If any of us in the vendor community are willing to build in a backdoor, we have fatally compromised our own security. And certainly in my industry, our job is to offer security to you. If we concede to government requests to insert backdoors into our own cryptographic algorithms or into our own management systems or our own infrastructures, there is absolutely no guarantee that those backdoors won't be found by people of malicious intent, and that software or that ecosystem or that infrastructure will be compromised and leveraged, and it's your data that's at risk, and it's our customers that are at risk. No such thing as a safe backdoor. The fifth in the list of 5 things in my brief 12-minute stint that I think it's important to highlight is this growing problem of shadow infrastructure. I know that shadow IT has been around for a long time, and it's been spoken about as a problem for a very long time. But shadow IT used to be physical things, maybe things that it was a bit easier to get a handle on. It might be people using thumb drives, USB sticks to transport data around, overcoming air gaps within your physical infrastructure. Obviously, that's a big risk. It might be the people who've got their own DSL line, their private DSL line installed under the desk, and then basically creating a non-firewalled bridge between the internet and your corporate infrastructure. It might be rogue wireless access points. You know, I talk about the DSL thing because I remember we used to do that when I was working in tech support at a security company who shall remain nameless, but is not my current employer. Because it was about ease of use, right? It was about, one of the things we had to do was test issues, test problems. People would phone up and say, hey, this particular product's not working. But if I want to try and replicate that issue, I need a clean route out to the internet. I can't go through my corporate infrastructure because our own corporate stuff's going to get in the way. I can't replicate your environment. So I had to have a clean pipe out to the internet. So we had our own private DSL line under the desk. But of course, we had 2 NICs in the same PC, and we were basically bridging the internet into the corporate infrastructure. Shadow infrastructure has become a much bigger problem. Now we're not talking about going out and raising a purchase order to buy a new server, waiting for it to get racked up in the data center and have all the right permissions signed. Now you can take your personal credit card, or even, God forbid, your corporate credit card. You can go and buy yourself an AWS instance and have corporate servers up and running in the external cloud with corporate data without anybody knowing about it at all. Your cloud migration can begin before the corporation, the enterprise, has even decided that that's what they want to do. So shadow infrastructure is becoming a big problem. And here's a statistic that really bears that out. This is from the Ponemon Institute. The first question there is, who is in your organization is most responsible for ensuring that servers that house your organization's data are adequately secured? And as you would expect, IT operations is way up there, maybe an external service provider or IT security. They're the top three, and that's a great answer. But look at the other question. Who is most responsible for determining whether a given cloud provider has adequate security controls in place? Whoa, what's IT security doing all the way down there? These are the people who nominally know security in your environment. And wait a second, who is that at the top? Business functions. So what's that? Your marketing department? Sales? They're the people who are going to audit the security of your external cloud provider and make sure it's up to scratch. This is the problem of shadow infrastructure. These are the people making now security decisions in enterprises on a global scale. That's why you're seeing breaches, and that's why security is the #1 concern for people migrating to the cloud. Now, there are so many other concerns, so many other things that I couldn't fit in a 15-minute presentation, so I kind of whittled it down to 5. But wait, of course it's not just 5. There are so many other things to think about. If you're in a shared cloud environment, this is an illustration maybe of an infrastructure as a service environment, you've got a shared firewall. So that means the firewall rules on that external facing piece of kit are going to be lowest common denominator. They have to be secured for the least secure internal environment, not for the most secure internal environment. That's a problem. The network behind the firewall, between the firewall and the server estate, that's a shared resource. Everyone's data is traveling over the same cables and the same networks. Multiple customers on one single hypervisor. You're sharing your hypervisor space in all probability with other organizations, maybe with competitors, potentially with criminals or attackers or people who want to compromise your organization. It's easy to steal a virtual server. You can walk into a data center with an iPod, 160 gig, and how many servers can you fit on your iPod and walk out the door? And of course, the shared storage as well. The message I think that I would leave you with is it's time to reconsider security. It's time to begin turning security inside out. Security has traditionally been an outside-in approach, looking at the perimeter, securing your estate from attacks from the outside. Now it's time to start from the center. Secure your data with encryption. Make sure even if your data is stolen, it's useless to the attacker. Secure systems. Authenticate users of systems. You hear a lot of talk about deperimeterization, but it's not about deperimeterization, it's about reperimeterization. Find the edge of your estate and build an effective perimeter there. Secure your data with encryption in shared storage. Build a firewall, a perimeter around every individual virtual machine. Make sure it can travel with that machine wherever it goes, from physical to private cloud to public cloud, and make sure that you have control and visibility over that estate, because for everything else, you don't have any control there. You've got to treat it as public. You can outsource control, but you cannot outsource accountability. This is your job. Do it wisely. Thank you very much.